Hi, this is Jen with Energy Revived. Here continuing the invisible exercise series. Easy exercises that you can do anytime, any place to help relieve tension and maintain flexibility and prevent tension in the future. So we're moving on now to I think I said back and abs in this video. When I say abs, I don't mean like crunchies or developing a six-pack sort of thing, although I suppose if you did enough of these exercises that might work. But no, what I mean more is relieving tension in the abdominal cavity, indigestion or nervous energy, that sort of thing. In fact, I'll do a whole separate video on how to contend with feelings of anxiety and panic attacks. That'll be later. Anyway, okay, so easy invisible exercises for your back. Most of us sit all wrong. And we sit in a way that's slouchy, and it causes pinching to the cushiony bits between the vertebrae. Just wondering if I can move this so that you can see a little better. Yeah, I don't know if that's going to work. I'm going to have to move. Okay, yeah, there you can kind of see me now. Okay, so, it's a rolly chair. No, you still can't really see me. Okay, so anyway, most of us when we sit, we don't sit like I'm sitting right now. Now my feet are now tucked underneath me so that it's easier to sit and maintain those natural curves in the low back, and you can see my spine is more or less straight. Most of us just don't sit like that when we're in chairs or when we're on the couch watching TV. We slouch, right? We relax, so we sit more like this, even if we think we're sitting upright. If you look, there's a huge difference in my spine now. And again, I apologize, you can't really see this all that well. But you can see even from my shoulders and my chest that I'm slanting downwards now. There's a difference in the alignment here. And if you could see my low back, there's a space now, not between my low back and the chair, but between my tailbone and the chair. And my low back is pressed more into the chair. So there's that. I don't really need to demonstrate this. Anybody who's sitting on the couch or on a chair watching this can probably feel this, that their low back is rounded. And that rounding causes the vertebrae, instead of to be stacked properly like this, they're like this. And so they're pushing the discs outwards, compressing one side of them. It's not that, I mean, your spine's designed to do that. There's a reason why your spine moves, right? It's meant to squish on either side, but holding that position for extended periods of time and doing that day after day after day, that's where you run into problems. That's where you set yourself up for herniated and slip discs and degenerated discs and all that sort of thing, and just generally a weakened low back from sitting in that stretched out position. And then the flip side of that is when you sit with your back like that, the muscles in the front, the muscles here, your hip flexors, when you're sitting like that, they're all shortened up. So they become tight. And then it becomes difficult when you go to a regular stand. It becomes difficult to bring your pelvis back into normal alignment. It starts to sort of round like this, and then you start to kind of change your posture, and all of a sudden this is your posture instead of this. So combating that throughout the day, especially if you're sitting throughout the day, but even if you're standing throughout the day, if you're not doing a lot of movement all over the place, or even if you're relaxing on your couch at night, it's a good idea to incorporate these little exercises, little motions that don't take a lot of effort and aren't very obvious to the person sitting beside you, hence the name invisible exercise. And then you'll prevent that whole downward spiral of ruining your posture and condemning yourself to low back or mid back issues. So the simplest thing I can tell you is to learn how to wave your spine, and it's probably easier to start with rounding and arching. Again, I think I'm gonna stand up for this, even though this is something you can do seated, but I'm gonna stand. Maybe if I sit right here. Oh yeah, you can kind of see me this way. Okay, so so rather than sitting like this, when you catch yourself sitting like this, even driving, I notice that I round when I drive even, and then I often shift one hip a bit forward of the other hip, which is no good either. So you can do this anytime, but it's just subtle motion of your spine. So I'm gonna pretend like my butt cheeks are rockers, and if you take a second, and most of you, especially me, since my butt's super flat, you can feel that bone in the butt cheek called the sit bone or the ischium, and you can rock back and forth on it. So rather than making this a monster motion of the spine, which you can see I'm actually not correcting my posture, I'm staying pretty rounded, you're going to make it a subtle motion of just the pelvis. And I'm pronouncing it here so that you can see that I'm rocking on my sit bones, but you don't have to do it that big. You can do it really, 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 really tiny. And if I relax, you can see what it does to my whole spine. So I'm going to accentuate it so you can, and I'll try to keep my arms out of the way. I'm going to accentuate it so that you can see when like the whole spine goes with it. If you relax and just drive from the pelvis, your whole spine kind of waves with you. But if you bring that down to a really, really subtle motion, your spine will still wave if you relax enough into it. But you can't really notice. If I'm sitting on the couch beside you doing this really, 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 really tiny, you won't notice me doing it. Okay, likewise, you can do this side to side. I'm not sure if I can demonstrate it. I don't have enough arm to do it side to side, but I'll try to pretend for you. So side to side, you can do the same thing side to side. This is about the worst place I could do it. But on your comfortable chair or your comfortable couch, you can do the side to side, just pressing one sit bone down and then the other sit bone down as you release. So my sit bones are going like this. And I'm enunciating the movement here. I'm doing it much bigger than you need to so that you can see what I'm doing. But you see how as I drop, I get a stretch here, and I get a squeeze. Like I'm not actively squeezing, but just by making this drop, I'm getting a gentle squeeze. So it's like squeezing and stretching, and that's going to circulate the blood. But I can bring this down to a really, really subtle movement here that you can't really see, but it still is really beneficial. And it's like my whole low back now feels kind of warmer and more awake, and this is, I think, the 5th video I've done in a row, so I've been sitting for a good hour chatting at a screen, so even just this few minutes that I've been doing it to demonstrate to you here makes a difference. You can also do circles. I don't know if I can really demonstrate this, but it's the same idea. It's going to be a really tiny motion. I don't know if you can really see it, but I'm combining those two motions of side to side and back and forth, and it's like I'm drawing a circle with my pubic bone. So I'm drawing like a circle like this. Or it's maybe like the way a plate will spin. Like if you think of a pelvis like a salad bowl or a plate, and imagine it kind of falling to the floor and hitting with that spin. I guess you could also think of this as like a figure eight that you're doing. Kind of feels like that. Again, anytime you do circles or figure eights or anything one-sided or one-directional, you want to make sure you get both directions. But again, it's just, I'm accentuating the movement, but you only have to do a really small version of it to get the benefits. And so all that you can do from your chair, and that affects your whole spine really. If you learn to relax your upper body, your whole spine will get the benefits of that rocking, relaxing motion. But particularly the low spine and the low abdomen. So for the mid-spine, because we kind of already covered the upper, you could do more of a rounding and arching posture. I'm going to put my arms out of the way so you can see what I'm doing. And again, this can be done really big or it can be done really small. And it's easy to do it against a chair too, because you have that physical sensation of press this part of your back against the chair and then relax it. flatten. So even instead of the idea of rounding and arching, the idea of flattening and lengthening. So if you watch I chin nod, and I also press both sit bones down and flatten my back, and then I just kind of relax. So my chin comes back to normal, my shoulders tilt back, and I'm tipping my tail up slightly, dropping my pubic bone down. So like lengthening, and then kind of relax, open the shoulders. So you can do that. You can do little circular motions with the rib cage as well. For some of you, that may feel pretty foreign and take a bit of coordination. But it doesn't really matter. Nobody's judging your technique here. The idea is just to incorporate movement, wake up the whole torso. As for the belly, a lot of us, I find prolonged periods of sitting, no matter what I've had to drink or eat throughout the day or what exercise I've performed prior, prolonged periods of sitting will cause a little bit of ache in my tummy and sometimes some trapped gas in there as well. So be forewarned, do these exercises and you may encourage the gas to release. So could be that you want to incorporate these exercises during a bathroom break. But it's easy. You relax, and then you gently squeeze in. You relax, you squeeze in. It's as easy as that. It can be as exaggerated or as subtle as you want. And again, lots of repetitions. You can also, I don't know if I want to include twisting in this video, but if you do a very subtle twist as you're doing this squeezing, releasing exercises, that kind of adds a little more benefit and effectiveness to it as well. And that's the regular kind of mid-belly that I'm talking about. You can also do this with the lower regions here. So yes, the low belly you can work more, squeezing and releasing, and the pelvic floor. So this carpet that runs underneath the pelvis, the perineal area, to be perfectly crass about it, that space between the genitalia and the anal sphincter, that space there. And spanning out, it's really like the inner edges of your whole pelvis. So there's kind of a diamond that your pelvis makes with your pubic bone here, your tail here, and your sit bones, those rockers in your butt cheeks. And that whole area makes the border of the carpet of your pelvic floor. So it's like the bottom of the salad bowl or the plate of your pelvis. From the very center of that carpet, drawing it upwards into the abdomen. This is very invisible exercise because if you do it properly, you don't contract your abdomen. I mean, you can contract both at the same time, but you can also isolate the exercise. So you're doing that upward squeeze like a suction cup, so the carpet goes like, it makes a sound just like that. No, I'm joking. And it's just a squeeze, release, squeeze, release. You may have heard of that exercise as Kegels, but Kegels are actually something different. Kegels talk about squeezing just the front portion of the muscles, the P-stopper muscles, working the pelvic floor properly, or engaging, in yoga we call it Mudalahara something bandha, the root lock. That comes from the very center, and that's a better way to do it because it will draw your pubic bone and tailbone toward one another equally instead of unequally, which we always want balance in yoga, so that's important. Another way to think about getting the proper pelvic floor exercise is to think about those sit bones, the rockers in your butt cheeks, feeling like they're narrowing, feeling like you're squeezing them together. And that's it's very good for tension relief. It's good to have strong pelvic floor muscles to properly support the bladder and prevent the Depenziers, which, by the way, if you're already having issues of incontinence, you can still correct those. In most cases anyway. So Kegels are, not Kegels, pelvic floor activation is an excellent exercise to do, and invisible, easy to do, standing, sitting, driving, anywhere you are. And yeah, I think that's it for abs and back for the invisible exercise series. Hope this helps. Come to Energy Revive and take a class.